Well, hello and welcome to another episode in our Tribulation Soldier COMS YouTube and Facebook. And at the moment I am working through the end times teachings, the greatly, hugely exciting end times teachings in the book of Revelations in the Bible. And as a former local church Christian pastor, I tend to teach these things quite simply and really to the point. You know, just the real important stuff. Try and keep it as uncomplicated as possible so that we can all enjoy it. And it is enjoyable, really exciting. It's just us looking forward in time to what's actually going to happen in the future of mankind. So throughout these teachings, there's loads and loads of questions that come up, and I will answer them as time goes on. But what I always want is, you know, guys, is to focus on each aspect of it, layer the teaching up, layer the understanding up, so you get a really clear picture of it in your mind. Otherwise, we can just go side to side and back and forth and tangents, and you know, it just gets complicated. So in these teachings, we're going to focus on each aspect and put them together really uncomplicated, so there's a lovely picture for you to see. I am a YouTuber after all, guys, you know, so please don't forget to like, subscribe and hit notifications. This series will be going for a little while as well, so I just really hope you enjoy. Yeah, so here we go. In the last video I shared on this series was quite a bit about myself, because that's very, very important, you know. And there's loads of teaching out there when it comes to the end times and all that sort of stuff. So very important that you know my background and so on. You know, this isn't just someone I've read in a book. You know, I've had to preach this stuff. I've had to be in the arguments. I've had to be in the questions, seeing the great joy that comes from it. But above all, guys, that scriptural accuracy, you know, that real accuracy. And the hope is, you know, guys, it's just going to be really uncomplicated. So I'm not going to delve into just quoting scripture and all those sorts of different things just off the bat. Again, we're just going to layer this stuff up nice and simply, each aspect, and we'll just build up this nice uncomplicated picture of what's going to happen. So let's just get us into that mindset very briefly. As Christians, what we believe is that the world's about 6,000 years old, just over 4,000 years old in the Old Testament, and over 2,000 where we are at the moment. And within that, there's 7 great ages of mankind. 7 great ages. I'll get into that another time. So within the 7-year trial and tribulation period, there's 21 judgments of God. And we're going to take them in turn, each one nice and uncomplicated, and put it all together. There's 21 judgments, and they're split into 3 sets of 7 judgments. The first one is the 7 seals. The second is the 7 trumpets. And the third is the 7 vials of wrath. And at the moment, we're on the first seal, the very first seal. And of course, you've probably heard of the 7 seals before. You've maybe heard of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. Well, the first 4 seals are those 4 horsemen. And the first horseman, the first judgment, is the coming of the Antichrist. Now, a lot of people think the Antichrist is here and this and conspiracy theory that, you know, we're not talking about Antichrist, we're talking about the Antichrist. There's Antichrist in the world already. That's just the way that things work. This will be the Antichrist. And he's very clearly shown in the scriptures as part of what we call the satanic trinity, which is Satan, the Antichrist, and the false prophet. We'll get to the false prophet later. But we're on the white horse just now, and this is the Antichrist. So you have to realise what part of history we're in when this Antichrist actually rises up. This will be when Jesus, you've heard of the rapture, I'm sure. It's actually called the catching away. And it's when Jesus comes back, not his second coming, but when he comes back and he takes all the Christians away from the earth, leaving all the unbelievers on earth to face the 7-year trial and tribulation period. And this is when the Antichrist rises up. And the reason that's really important is because at that stage in mankind's history, there will be no question that God is real, that this Jesus is real. All these things he said and done are real. They are absolutely real. No question anymore whatsoever. And this is when this Antichrist will rise up. And he is some kiddie. I mean, he really is. Satan, the head of the Trinity, will give him power. Now, he's called the first seal of judgment on the earth. He comes on a white horse, and that white horse comes to conquer and to conquer and to conquer. It'll be amazing. It'll be charming, absolutely charming. Great signs and wonders. He will look absolutely amazing in the eyes of the world. And the scriptures tell us quite a bit about him. He will be the final ruler of the earth, the one world government. He'll be the spearhead of that. He will be a Jew, part of God's chosen people. And there's actually a bit that says that he won't take a wife. And this is the great thing about scripture interpretation and questions back and forth of what that means. Does that mean that he won't take a wife, or will he be homosexual? And for myself, I really have to go with just the plain meaning of the text. He won't take a wife, just because of who this guy actually is. And I've got this real belief just from through the scriptures that him desiring a woman will probably be quite beneath him. This guy will think he is God and equal to God. God doesn't have a wife. Jesus never had a wife. I think that that's just who he is. He wants to show that he doesn't need it. He doesn't need companionship. He doesn't need sex. He is the boy. But he will be amazing. He really will. And a lot of this Antichrist actually centers around the children of Israel, or the nation of Israel. And he will create peace in Israel for 3.5 years during the tribulation period. 3.5 years of peace in Israel. But midway through, he'll break that promise, and there'll be 3.5 years of occupation. So you're talking worldwide rule, one world government, and it's spearheaded by the Antichrist. And of course, his influence and his power comes from Satan. I mentioned the false prophet earlier. He'll be like the Antichrist's right-hand man. But he's an extremely important figure when it comes to the 7 years, because the kind of decisions that he makes, the things that he does, will colour the way that trial and tribulation period goes. And he will experience all the 21 judgments of God as well. But he is a very real character that is going to come. And he will be pretty amazing. I keep saying this. He will be shining, charming, absolute genius. I mean, figuring out the Middle East peace. Wow, peace in Israel for 3.5 years. Man alive. That guy can do that when many others can't. So he's very clear in the scriptures. And again, that's just been a very basic outline of who he is and what he'll come to do. You can look throughout, even in the Old Testament, there's a description of him there. There's more descriptions of him in the book of Revelations. But for now, I just want to give you that core understanding. I'm a great believer, and it just comes from being a Christian pastor, that most people just want to know the most important parts. Others might want to delve into even further, and I'll do that in the future. But for the majority, you just want to know the key things so you can put it all together yourself. And again, we'll layer it up and we'll layer it up and we'll layer it up. So here's one of the big things maybe that we can see today. And the Bible tells us very clearly that throughout the ages there's been many antichrists, but not the Antichrist. I have to make that absolutely clear. And he will be the world leader. And 20 or 30 years ago, that might have been probably quite unthinkable. But look at today. We've never been as connected as we are today. Just unbelievable, isn't it, when you come to think about it? When I think about people watching this video, you could be in any corner of the earth, any little village, any place. We're all so connected. We started to get that bit of unity as a mankind, during COVID and all these sorts of different things. Things are changing and rapidly changing. And this all feeds into how this one world government will exist. The Antichrist has now got an amazing platform to reach the entirety of the earth. And this is how he'll wow, and this is how he'll control the world when that time comes. It is amazing when I come to think about it. It's just sitting thinking about it just now. I can speak and speak and speak. I mean, 1 billion people could watch this. More. So what's it going to be like when the Antichrist comes along? And he will be so charming and so manipulative, he'll be able to deceive even God's people. There'll be people that will be absolutely deceived by who this guy is. And again, let's look at it. Jesus has just come back. A huge chunk of the population of the earth has disappeared in a moment. Everyone on the planet now sees it. They say, yeah, Jesus is real, God is real, for goodness sake. But somehow this guy is going to manipulate the people on earth during that 7-year trial and tribulation, many of them, to believe that he's equal with God himself. So he is the first judgment, the white horse, the first horse of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. And again, he's just so important to look at just now, because he will colour the 7-year trial and tribulations on earth. And he's going to have to deal with all the different judgments that are going to come up, because he is the world leader. He's going to make these decisions. He's going to be affected by these things. He's going to affect other people. He will be very charming to begin with, but as time goes on, they become more and more corrupt, worse and worse. You'll start to see slavery. You'll start to see him acting as though he's God, and he really will take over. So the very first seal, the first 21 judgments of God, the first of the 7 seals, then we move on to the 7 trumpets and the 7 vials. And what you find is when we start going through these judgments that will happen over the course of that 7 years, they'll get worse and worse and worse. The intensity will be so much more. And so too will the Antichrist rule and the slavery of mankind. So there we are, a very brief, hopefully uncomplicated view of this Antichrist guy that's going to arise in that 7-year trial and tribulation period. So in future videos, I'm just going to keep moving forward through these. I'm going to layer it all up and layer it all up and layer it all up. Try and keep it really simple. I'll really try, don't worry. And obviously in the future, I'll do bigger teachings and we'll delve into the scriptures and pull them apart and look at the original Greek and all that stuff, if that's what you really want. But for now, it's just getting that simplistic stuff in. And there's lots to come. The other 3 horsemen, when we move into like the 7 trumpets, for example, 1/3 of all the trees will be destroyed and all green grass will be burnt up. The bottomless pit being opened up for 5 months, where all the demons get let loose upon the earth. Into the vials of wrath, the great sores will appear all over the people that follow the beast. And when I say beast, I say Antichrist. And later, a great worldwide earthquake that will shake every city on the planet. I tell you, this stuff is just amazing. It makes the hair stand up on the back of my neck at times, I'll tell you. So that's probably enough for the time being, guys. As always, again, we're YouTubers, we've got to say it. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit notifications. And of course, we've got our Birnie Family channels you guys can really enjoy. I just hope, that this stuff really rings through to you, that you feel that kind of excitement. You see this amazing truth. I just hope you feel it. Feel it. Thanks again, guys, and God bless.